I should have brought some water. Hello everyone, welcome back to Vox Atelier. I hope you are doing well. Today we're joining Julie from Decorated Curvy on a little sewing edition of This and That. I'll link below her blog post where you can see her YouTube video, as well as all of the questions that I'll be following along that she has detailed, so you can follow along with the questions or you can play as well if you want to. So let's make a start. I forgot to mention what I'm wearing. This is my latest finished UFO. Actually, it was, let me see if I can show you. Probably not, so I'll post it here so you can see a picture. This is my second version of the Vikisews Sharon dress. This one is made on in a 100% cotton, except the collar, which is made in viscose. I really like this dress. This actually is one of the oldest fabrics that I had in my stash, so I'm really happy that I finally turned it into a garment. If you want to see more pictures of this one or other makes that I have, I'll link below to my Instagram account. And the first topic will be sewing prep. Here we start with shopping new or stash busting. If you've seen from my previous video, I have quite a healthy stash. Together with I have quite a healthy stash. And when I do buy fabrics, I buy, let's say, quite an amount. Well, I tell myself that it's because I can save in shipping, but actually I just like to, have fabrics already in my stash that I can pick for a project. I don't like to have to wait for a fabric to arrive so that I can start a project. And well, I just browse to fabric stores every now and then, and I keep adding fabrics to my favorites. So when I do buy, I take the opportunity to buy, all of the ones that I can from my favorites list. So I can say that I'm more on the stash busting side. Number 2 is PDF or paper patterns. Personally, PDF. I'm a PDF girl. I live in Europe, which just to add some context, I live in Europe. We don't have access to the big 5 patterns as you might have in the US, that you can just shop them in Joann sales, for example, for $1.99. Here in Europe, those paper patterns can go up to 20 euros, mostly because I have to buy them online. I have to get them shipped to me, or I have to buy them on Amazon. So it turns out to be quite expensive, and I really dislike tracing, because if you're going to buy a pattern for such a price, I'm not going to cut into it. So I would have to trace each size as I want to do it, because of course I would like to keep the pattern in case, my size changes. So I'm a PDF girl. Number 3 is cutting versus tracing. Well, I kind of already mentioned that, but yes, cutting all the way. Since I do have a preference to use PDF patterns, I don't mind just cutting into it and cutting the size that I need. If I need to sew it again in the future, since it is a PDF pattern, I will just print it again. I do have a very small number of paper patterns. Those actually I've only used one. I have about 5, I think, but the reason why I avoid using them is because I feel like I'll have to trace my size, and yeah, I don't like to do that, as I said. So for me, cutting all the way. Number 4, muslin or just go for it. Just go for it. I mean, do you consider, if you're making the garment on a less precious fabric, do you consider it a muslin? I don't know. Most of the time I just go for it. What I've done recently, for example, I've made the shade dress by Chalk and Notch, and what I've considered the muslin is that I just cut the bodice in the lining fabric and I fit that to me, so just to test if the size was good. And once I confirmed that that was okay, then I cut into my main fabric. So I just avoid doing muslins. I think it's a waste of fabric. I don't buy specific fabric just for muslins. I'll have to use one of the fabrics in my stash. So if I'm going to do that, if it is a lined bodice, I'll just, cut the lining and fit that first and then go for the project. So I guess I'm on the just go for it. So we've reached topic number 2, and it is fabric. And the first question is in-store or online shopping? So where I live, there aren't many stores that I can just go into and buy fabric. I have some in the center of Lisbon, but I live about 1 hour away. So I guess I'm on the online shopping corner, and as well, I cannot find the fabrics that I can find online, at least in the stores that I know and I can go to when I'm in Lisbon. So yeah, I'm on online shopping corner. Knits versus wovens. Wovens all the way. I have a serger. I use the serger for woven fabrics as well. I don't really mind, if I'm not seeing it, it's on the inside of the garment, and it reminds me of ready to wear garments. So for me, that's correct. I just serge my garments and I don't mind. But for knits, I've never had much luck. Most of the time when I have a failed me made, it is a knit project. I even bought, you can see it on that side, I even bought a cover stitch machine because I could not get in any way. I think I broke about 3 double needles and I could not get it to work, and I just like the double needle effect on the fabric instead of the zigzag. So yeah, I will still sew knit fabrics, but most of my project, like probably 90%, are woven. So I'm on a woven all the way. I keep saying all the way, like it's not all the way, it's more to one or the other, but okay. And number 3, tumble dry versus hang to dry. Oh, this is a simple one. I don't have a tumble dryer, so for me it's just hang to dry. This is a fast one. So I will directly jump to number 4 on the fabric category, and this one is rotary cutter versus scissors. Rotary cutter. Actually, when I first bought a rotary cutter, when I started sewing, I had no idea that you needed to have a mat under it. So I tried to cut the fabric luckily on tiled floor, and it directly ruined the blade on my rotary cutter. Then I tried to search why it didn't work, and then I got a cutting mat as well. But for me, I just find that with a rotary cutter, it is faster. The fabric is cut in a much, the cut is just so clean, so straight. If I go with scissors, I cannot get the right effect. I do use scissors every now and then, but my preference, if I can, is always to rotary cutters. Clothing construction. And the number 1 is following the pattern or just wing it. Mostly the first time that I make a garment, I like to follow the pattern, to every line, bit by bit, because I just really want to understand the construction first, the way that it was designed to be made. That's my personal preference. So the first time, at least, I follow the pattern to the letter. But after that, if I've made the pattern maybe twice, third time I might just go for it. If I don't like a very specific way, then I'll change it. Okay, I'm not going to answer the next one, but if there is something very specific that I don't like, then I will not follow the instructions. But 99% of the time, I prefer to just, follow the pattern instructions. I should have brought some water. And number 2, bias tape finish versus facings. I really dislike bias tape finish. In the neck, mostly on armholes. I just don't like that you top stitch. You have to stitch the bias binding down, and I don't like that you can see that line on top. I prefer to have a facing that is understitched, and it just looks very clean, mostly on necklines. So this is an easy one for me. I know that a lot of people just hate facings, but maybe I just got used to it from the construction of the patterns that I follow along, but I'm on the side of facings on this one. The next one, serged seams or French seams. I think I might have answered this one by mistake, and my preference is definitely on just serging the fabric. I don't mind the finish, you know, it reminds me of ready to wear. It's what I'm used to seeing. I think I French seamed one dress once, one of the first ones that I've done, because I didn't have a serger. After that, I bought a sewing foot for my sewing machine that, you know, does the fake serged finish, and I used that for a while until I got my actual serger. So for me, I just will serge the fabric. That's my preference. Number 4, so button fly or zip fly. I'm not sure I can comment much on this one. I don't usually sew pants, for example. So if I do choose a pants pattern to sew, I've done only one, which was Vikisews pattern, I think. The Britney pants? Yes, the Britney pants. I think I'll add a picture here if I find it. Those are zip fly. Even on my ready-to-wear jeans, I always go for zip fly. I don't want to be fighting with buttons when I get to the bathroom. So if I do get to a point where I'm going to sew my pants and the pattern does have buttons, I probably am not going to make it, or I'm going to try to change it into, you know, a zip fly. So for I end up on the zip fly corner. Number 5, so buttons by hand versus machine sewn. I wouldn't say that it's exactly by choice, but I sew all of my buttons by hand. It's kind of silly. I didn't even know that I had a button sewing foot for my machine. I found it out recently, and I just didn't have the courage to, you know, or the patience to stop and test trying to sewing a button with it. So until today, all of my buttons are hand sewn. That might change in the future, or maybe I just need to play with the button sewing foot, and from then on I'll never sew any button by hand. But until today, I'm on the buttons, you know, sewn by hand. And number 6, we have fusible versus sew-in interfacing. I have never purchased sew-in interfacing. I have never used it. I never had it. So this is another one that will be fast. It will be fusible interfacing all the way. Also, I have never sewn a pattern that asks me to use sew-in interfacing. So that's why I've never got it, I think. But if it did, I'm not sure if it did ask, I'll change the instructions. I've just never used it. So for me, it's fusible interfacing. Number 7 is snip as you go or all at once. I snip as I go. Every time that I finish, you know, a line, I go and I snip the threads, because when I'm done with that last seam, I want to just be done with the project. I hate to having to go back and then having to find the threads, you know, and look for things that are unfinished. So I try to finish every step as I go, including, you know, snipping all the threads as I sew. Just that's personal preference, I know, but I just hate going back when I'm already at the end of a project. So yeah, I'm on a snipping as you go kind of girl. And number 8 is the last one in this category. Press as you go or all at once. Kind of. So if I'm, for example, sewing one sleeve and then I have to sew the other one, I'll sew one sleeve, sew the other, and then press both. So I'll do as many steps as I can until the next time that I have to go to the iron and press my seams, but I'll press the seam before I'll touch that seam again, if then, you know, if you understand what I mean. So that it's kind of press as you go. I'll press every time that I finish a bunch of steps that are not related. So yeah, I guess I'm on the press as you go, because I will not touch that seam unless I've pressed it, you know, as it is mandated by the paper, or, you know, by the pattern instructions. I will wait and do as many unrelated steps as I can, so I can press them all at once, but, you know, I'll press them as I go, kind of. And we are on topic number 4, and this is sewing habits. And the first question is, late night seamstress or daytime seamstress? I will sew all that I can during the day. If I try to sew at night, that's mostly when I make a mistake. So I really avoid that. I like to wake up on a weekend, and watch a sewing stream, and then just start working on my project. So I'll work on it as much as I can during the day. If I end up sewing during the night because I need to finish something, I'll do it, but that's something that I'll avoid because almost always I'm sure that I'm going to make a mistake. So I guess I'm a daytime seamstress. Question number 2 is slow and steady or frantic sewing? I guess most of my projects are slow and steady, but I prefer that it's just frantic sewing. I prefer to have a deadline and just finish the project. Otherwise, it might end up on my UFO pile. I might just lose interest or get fed up with a step and put it aside, tell myself that I'll finish in another day, and then, weeks go by. I have literally projects cut out from last winter that I was just like, well, it's almost spring, so, I'll just do it, I'll just leave it aside, and I'm going to do them this winter. But still, I prefer to maybe just have a deadline so I can just make sure that I'll complete the project and not lose interest. So even though most of my projects are slow sews, I would say, I prefer to have, frantic sews. I guess that allows me to ensure that I'll finish my project. But we're already on the last one, and this is tidy as you go or one big cleaning session. Definitely one big cleaning session. I cannot imagine stopping in the middle of a sewing session to clean. The only thing that I'll be very careful is about not leaving little threads on the floor, because I have cats and I don't want them to eat one of the threads, because they eat anything that is on the floor. I have 2 kittens, so it's very dangerous. But besides that, anything else, the iron is here, I have fabric there, I just clean everything all at once. So yeah, I hope you found this entertaining. If you want to see more from me, you can see my previous video, and it would be nice if you'd stick around so I can see you on my next one. Happy crafting and have a nice day. Bye!